So in 2025, we quietly acknowledged 15 years of existence in the shadow of a year like no other. When we began our work in 2010, Barack Obama was President of the United States. Facebook and Twitter were effective tools for grassroots mobilization, and Canada's local media landscape was relatively strong. That same year, in the US, the Supreme Court issued its controversial ruling in Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, which allowed corporation and other outside groups to spend unlimited amounts of money on elections, a decision whose impacts we're feeling around the world today. 15 years later, the global context has shifted dramatically. We've lived through a worldwide pandemic that was economically, socially, and psychologically traumatic. And just as communities were beginning to recover, global stability fractured further when Vladimir Putin's Russia invaded a sovereign nation, undermining long-standing international norms. And Donald Trump is today, again, the President of the United States, and readers may draw their own conclusions about the implications. Notably, Albertan separatists have been meeting with his administration. At the same time, the world has been marked by ongoing, intensifying conflicts and humanitarian catastrophes, alongside compounding climate impacts that are amplifying food insecurity, an affordability crisis, displacement, and human suffering worldwide. It is now clear we're deep in the climate emergency, unlike in 2010. I know I'm piling it on, but this is the last one. Meanwhile, in 2025, social media and the internet have undergone what is called enshittification, which is now a real word, and the nerd Reich is flexing their financial powers, and Canada's local media ecosystem has weakened significantly, making it harder to build public awareness and sustained political will for climate action. And yet, even in this more fragmented and hostile context, people continue to show up for one another and for this work. Frankly, there is no roadmap for the work we are doing now. In response, we devoted significant time last year to reflection, learning, experimenting, and relationship building. We attended cross-sector events and calls with allied organizations, spoke with politicians, and shared candidly with one another about what we're experiencing on the ground. The success of our national conference and the action reports submitted by our volunteers tell that story in real time. And herein lies the hope. Humans are innately altruistic, and people power can usurp financial power. Guided by our core values, our 5 levers of political will, our proven theory of change, we are standing our ground because we know the transformation of the economy will not be linear, and this too shall pass. Through the stoic dedication of volunteers from coast to coast to coast, we continue to build trusted relationships, educate our communities, and advocate for climate positive policies, even in the face of uncertainty and setbacks.
And now we will look at our action reports. And if you want to be able to see the graphic that we just scrolled past, there is a link to the report in the chat. You can click on that. All right, our volunteers entered 1,272 action tracker reports in 2023, 2,492 in 2024, and 3,461 in 2025, showing the world what a highly organized, committed group looks like. Keep in mind that some people do not submit reports. Actual activity is likely higher. Merci, Miigwech, and thank you to everyone who keeps us on track and rows with us. You are the wind beneath our wings. Lobbying. Lobbying activity was slightly lower in 2025, which is not a concern. Activity typically declines during election years, and 2025 included both a federal election and an election in Ontario, Canada's largest province. As well, there were no provincial lobbying events in 2025 compared to 2 major events in Toronto and Winnipeg in 2024. By November 2025, consistent with CCL USA, CCL Canada formally ceased facilitating or coordinating provincial lobbying. From 2010 to 2023, provincial lobbying focused exclusively on carbon fee and dividend, except in Quebec. In 2024, we expanded to other policy areas in response to provincial government resistance to carbon pricing policies, which strained our capacity and created unsustainable working conditions. Going forward, groups should maintain existing relationships with provincial or territorial parliamentarians, but carefully assess time and capacity before pursuing subnational lobbying. CCL Canada's core expectations of our groups remain build relationships with federal MPs and strengthen local political will for climate-related finance, climate-aligned finance, and a strong industrial carbon price. While engaging with provincial and territorial parliamentarians, we recommend focusing on carbon pricing and collaborating with established nonpartisan NGOs that can advance policies with a high likelihood of passage and meaningful greenhouse gas reductions. Isolated advocacy most often yields limited impact and consequently deflated volunteers. Also, keep in mind that the world is in chaos and rest must be a priority for all CCLers. Media publications declined in 2025, which is a concern. Local media coverage is one of our most important activities, second only to building transformational relationships with our own parliamentarians. Of note, though, we only had 209 media hits in 2023, less than half of our 2025 numbers. But this work is especially critical given the erosion of democratic discourse on social media platforms such as Meta and X. The decline in part reflects capacity constraints, which the national office was stretched to its limits in 2025. In 2025, CCL Canada issued 10 media releases compared to 12 in 2024. As well, global news cycle, including the return of Donald Trump, also diverted attention from climate issues. Going forward, our goal is to rebuild a strong, decentralized network of volunteer media advocates. At its peak in 2018, this network generated over 700 media hits. This was the year the climate policy we advocated for was adopted. To reestablish this capacity, we aim to release at least 2 media releases per month, increase letter to the editor alerts, conduct more workshops, and empower volunteers to get their voices heard. We will also support volunteers in recording their media hits because metrics motivate. Did you want me to go through the rest of the categories, Kathy?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Yes. Contact with legislators. This metric, which includes open letters, digital campaigns, phone zaps, and efforts to secure MP appointments, increased in 2025, rather substantially too. Great work, everyone. In 2026, we will provide regular nudges to connect continuously with your own MPs, which is our most important activity as CCLers. Grassroots outreach. Outreach increased in 2025 and included volunteering in elections and tabling at events. Keep up the good work. Earth Day and September's UN Climate Week remain excellent opportunities to connect with the public. Other legislator encounters, there was no change in this metric, which covers town halls and informal meetings with MPs where no lobbying occurs and you pretty much just socialize. Grass tops outreach. This metric doubled in 2025. Way to go, everyone. The increase reflects significant national office engagement with other NGOs and thought leaders to better understand the political landscape. Insights gained are now being incorporated into our planning and actions. I would add also that during the elections, there were also a lot of volunteers doing grass tops outreach. So good for you all for that. Chapter and group leader development. We expanded opportunities for leader development in 2025, and membership responded with increased engagement. In 2026, we have launched a monthly educational series to equip leaders with the tools, knowledge, and empowerment needed to strengthen their leadership and effectiveness as climate advocates. And finally, the generic category. This category captures activities that cannot be tracked elsewhere, including Reddit posts and YouTube comments. While we do not have the capacity to capture granular details, there was no significant change in 2025. I'll just mention for 2026, Keith had a rather successful Reddit post the other day about he shared our media release about the GST increase not making up for the lack of carbon dividend. So way to go, Keith. All right, let's continue.
Yeah, really good catch on the grass tops. I forgot that during elections that when you're speaking to candidates, that's a grass tops outreach. So yes, a lot of you did that. So great work, everyone. I'll have to get that in there. Okay, I'll go
All
from there.
right. I'll jump in with some of our month by month actions. Obviously, we did a lot throughout the year, so I'll just focus on a couple key areas here. So, first of all, in May, we had our Mother's Day to Father's Day fundraiser, which raised the most amount of funds we've ever had, which is all coming directly from our members and our friends. So, thank you, everybody who helped shoulder that and power this movement forward. As you can see from 2023 to 2025, it's about a 40% increase, which is amazing. We do have expenses coming up in 2026, I think that should say. But we would love anybody who's able to help contribute even a little bit for that as well. In October, of course, we had our the People's Ministry of the Future conference, which was our largest conference to date as well in October. And we had some amazing speakers. For anybody who didn't come, we had Beth Lorimer from Kairos. We had a carbon pricing panel. We had the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty come, as well as the Honorable Catherine McKenna, who signed her book there. We had an eco-justice panel, as well as an amazing on-roads breakfast presentation with members of Parliament by Andrew Jones from On-Roads. It was an amazing conference. I think anybody who attended can attend that fact. We had 74 people there in person and 119 people in total, including the people who watched online, which was far and above the 60 to 75 we sort of expected to show up there for that. We also had a record number of lobbyists, so 56 joining us on Parliament Hill, and the most number of provinces being represented there, which was all amazing to see. During the conference, we had produced a Laser Talks booklet. We had a documentary crew following our efforts there, which was the first. And Kathy's daughter Sophia presented in the House of Commons Environmental Committee. Donna presented a media event for her MP. And a team of CCL volunteers coordinated an on-roads presentation for the staff at Environment and Climate Change Canada as well. So it was by and far an amazing event. What we learned at that conference, we're going to bring forward and help shape what we're doing in 2026 as well. So looking forward to covering that a little later here too.
So the provincial phone zap that we did in the fall. In September, CCLers made 60 phone calls to their provincial parliamentarians, urging to level the playing field for renewable energy and provide municipalities with the funding they need to design long-term sustainable heating plans for buildings. We got numerous notable responses, including Peter Bevan Baker from the PEI Green Party. Vanessa Fiore heard back from her MPP Stephen Lecce, who is the Ontario Minister of Energy and Mines. Donna Friedman got a response from her MPP Z Hamid, who is the Ontario Associate Solicitor General for Auto Theft and Bail Reform. And CCL Milton actually met with him for a second time just a couple weeks ago. And we heard back from as well from the on the Manitoba Minister of Environment and Climate Change, from the Alberta NDP Environment Critic, from the official opposition critic for climate change in Quebec, and from Alberta's Minister of Affordability and Utilities. And I just wanted to say bravi tutti to everyone who made a call to their provincial parliamentarian.
Great summary. Thank you. Um, Social media. We are not social media influencers. We are social influencers, supported by just 0.5 paid staff who help 120 plus CCL Canada leaders build political will locally for carbon pricing and climate aligned finance. Since 2017, we have witnessed the enshittification of the internet, particularly YouTube, Meta, and X. We use YouTube and Meta now only for curating content and announcements And we abandoned X when Musk began to directly interfering with democracies in late 2024. We also don't pay non-Canadian billionaires who are complicit in weakening democracies globally by purchasing advertising on their democracy destroying platforms. One of the exciting things we did in 2025 on social media was the Get Out the Vote videos, resulting in powerful contributions from all age groups, all four regions of the medicine wheel, every region of Canada. And our goal was to show the world that we are a broad and diverse base of climate leaders, and we totally succeeded. Thank you, Mary Blake and Mark, for doing that, and everyone who contributed videos. And on Instagram alone, the 12 videos yielded more than 6,000 views without any paid promotion. It's important to note that social media is not the best way to get active volunteers. The growth happens when real people invite other real people to join our network. And for that, we thank our volunteers for powering others to step forward. Just some notable things. I won't read it in detail, but we doubled again on Blue Sky, which was great. We're kind of really just giving up on the meta platforms because they're manipulating the algorithms in harmful ways. We do encourage you that if you are on any of those platforms to cheer on your own MPs and climate hawk politicians. Keith, I saw you on Senator Galvez's Facebook today. Thank you for cheering her on. YouTube, up until last year, only twice, two of our YouTube videos exceeded 200 views, and we had two videos exceed 200 views in 2025 alone. So thank you for everyone for up-clicking and watching them. We're really leaning into CCL community now that Facebook has, basically not working all that well for us. So keep trying to learn how to use that and communicating in CCL community. We've got a WhatsApp page for our Senate group, as well as we're trying to develop something on community, and we'll slowly develop that over the year. WhatsApp has a community function. LinkedIn, I have over 1,300 followers on LinkedIn, and I know if I see you like Catherine over in Newmarket and Kathy in Calgary, I see you on LinkedIn, and we're pondering whether or not to create a LinkedIn profile. We're still thinking about if we have the bandwidth for it. And we're monitoring Gander, and I'm not sure if it's going to take off. I don't know if I've been following the news, and I won't go into detail, but Gander is supposed to be the replacement for Facebook, but for Canada, but we'll see. I'm still looking at it. So that's our social media, and on to Mark.
Amazing. So some lessons we learned in 2025. First is that progress is not linear. Despite all of our efforts and all of our hard work, we have experienced setbacks, including the loss of some key climate policies, such as carbon fee and rebate. I think the important lesson to take away from that is that our resilience is critical, and it's all of you, all the climate leaders who've proven that they can persevere through challenges who are the most important here. I don't know what the quote is. You can do everything right and still lose. That's life. So maybe something to keep in mind as well going forward. Um, Secondly, relationships matter. Deep ongoing connections with our members of parliament, our community leaders, and our allies were important for keeping climate conversations alive, even as we're in this period of shifting political winds. So building those strong, lasting relationships, remains, as it always has, a cornerstone of our effective climate advocacy. Community power is also crucial. So our volunteers, their grassroots pressure and local engagement, all of that amplifies the national campaigns and kept CCL Canada visible and relevant. So volunteer leadership as a foundation is important to our influence, and celebrating their contributions strengthens the overall movement of our organization. So celebrate yourselves whenever you're able to. Integrity and optimism are strategic, so committing to integrity and collective optimism fostered trust within our network and with our external partners, even amidst all of the political and media turbulence. So providing high quality education, regular guidance, all helps maintain integrity and optimism while we're navigating complex challenges. And finally, adaptability is strength. So as the media landscapes fragmented and political narratives shifted, our ability to adapt, including moving to blue sky, supporting local media with stories, all of that demonstrates our flexibility and continued adaptation across new tools and platforms, as well as media opportunities. All of that's going to be essential to maintaining effective and sustainable movement going forward.
Thanks, Mark. We're now on to Mary Blake. Sorry.
Okay, so here at the national office, I'll just go over a bit of what our responsibilities are and how we're spending our time. So, for the past 2 years, we've had two part-time staff, me and Mark, for the first time in our history, and our national director, Kathy, remains a volunteer. I don't think anybody dares count up how many hours Kathy Orlando has donated to the organization. It would be a large number. But so with these limited resources, we've continued to deliver work that often feels impossible. So as a staff team, we reflected on our work in 2025 and used those lessons to define clear time budgets, roles, and responsibilities for 2026. And each staff member will contribute approximately 10 hours per week to national work for 48 weeks per year, or a total of 1,440 staff hours annually. Our primary responsibility is to empower local leaders to build political will for climate-aligned finance and the industrial carbon price. In 2026, our goals are to significantly increase both our lobby meetings and our mainstream media coverage. And to achieve this, we need to grow our active membership while ensuring we do not overwhelm new volunteers.
Great work, Mary Blake. And we're getting near the end, the road ahead. We are immensely proud of what we accomplished together in 2025. Truly, it's so beautiful reading what you all did and going through the data. Our group leaders contribute about 100 hours per year of their precious time, a commitment more valuable than money could ever buy. Supporting these incredible volunteers who lobby their MPs and build political will locally is our top priority. We cannot take the industrial carbon price for granted. We must actively protect it and find ways to redirect financial support away from the fossil fuel industry. We will also lobby for the climate-aligned finance so as to make up for the loss of the carbon rebate program in terms of GHG reductions by our country. Last year, the national office worked at a pace that is not sustainable. We've done an internal analysis and prioritized what we can realistically manage in 2026 given our time resources. The election and subsequent actions of Donald Trump has put enormous pressures on Canada, households, and minds. Thus, rest will be a key strategy with our volunteers and at the national office. I slept in an ice hotel last weekend. It was awesome. Built into that rest will be realistic workflows and focus, and no will be a welcomed word. So feel free to say no to us. If you can't do something, the fact that we still have a minority government and thus there can be an election at any time federally, as well as the upcoming CUSMA negotiations, so the new NAFTA, two separatist movements in Canada and midterm elections in the USA could dramatically change things. We've actually only made a plan for the first half of 2026. And here it is. The Senate action team is doing major actions January through March. We will be fundraising from Valentine's to St. Patrick's. March, we're going to there's special things happening in March, including we'll be releasing some climate vote research. In April, we always do outreach. In May, we'll be preparing for constituent lobbying. And June, we'll be doing constituent lobbying of our own MPs. 2025 was a year of resilience, learning, and adaptation. Amid global crisis, media fragmentation, and political uncertainty, CCL Canada remains steadfast. Our volunteers, partners, and supporters demonstrated the power of community, integrity, and optimism. These lessons and values set the foundation for 2026 as we harness our superpower of focus to strengthen relationship, empower volunteers, and advance evidence-based climate solutions across Canada. We are entering this new year ready to meet the challenges, seize opportunities, and drive meaningful change from coast to coast to coast. And I wish you all could have heard everybody at the beginning of this call. Everybody is pretty stoked for what 2026 has to offer. So any comments on that? I know it was a lot to read, but we did want to get through it because you did a lot last year, and that barely, like, that's just a sliver of what we could report. So any comments or questions about that report?
Kathy, what you have your ear to the ground. Do you think there's going to be a federal election this spring?
That I do not know. That I do not know.
My guess is not, but yeah, my guess is no.
Yeah, I do not have my ear to the ground on that one. I'm not even going to guess.
Yeah. So June, we're going ahead with the conference. Yeah.
It's not going to be a conference in June, Keith. If we do it, it's going to be a lot smaller. And
Okay.
that's all the more reason not to plan anything big, as there could be an election at any time.
Right.
Very good question. What we're thinking of doing is gathering on Monday, June the 1st in Ottawa in the evening for, a lobby prep session, and then doing something, hopefully build a giant dream catcher on the Tuesday in the morning, and then lobby all day Tuesday and all day Wednesday, and then have some party in a bar like we did the first time we ever went to Ottawa. Do you remember that, Cheryl? We were singing and having fun in that bar at the end of all that lobbying down in the Byward Market. So to have an after party. So not 2 days of like highly focused conference. No, just a sliver of a conference, not even a conference, more like a gathering, lobby, and then party.
Yeah, me, Kathy. Do you have any insight on our Prime Minister, who's done some very interesting things lately? Most notably, reducing the tax on EVs to 8% or whatever it is from China. So we're going to get some cheap entry-level EVs.
Yeah, that was really interesting what he did. And I think it completely aligns with what Simon Sharp is saying. And, for the record, I come from the Niagara region and many people in my family work for General Motors. So I should be very worried about EV Chinese cars, but shouldn't because it's only 3%. And if you look at 3% of the total EV sales in Canada, and if you look at what Simon Sharp said, you have to make these things affordable up front to get the ball rolling. So I think it's a really good thing. And I don't think it's a threat to our automotive industry. I think it's a kick in the butt to our automotive industry. Okay. Yes.
One we need.
What they need. Yeah. Great comment, Glenn. Any other comments or questions?
I had worked about 10 years in automotive quality as an engineer. We outsourced it to China, and I'm greatly concerned about the safety of our streets. As to the quality and security has been lacking there. So, and if you put unsafe vehicle on the road, even now we have so many recalls. So I'm greatly concerned.
Yep. Hopefully, not hopefully. I don't know if the word's hopefully. Let's trust that the regulations and the standards and the monitoring in Canada will protect us from that. And a very good point, Catherine.
Just to follow on, Kathy,
Mhm.
I was quite intrigued by just the general tone of the conversation. Carney was bolder than I dared hope. I thought they wouldn't touch EVs. Are you picking up anything? You're
Well,
much better connected than I.
this is uh, this is more no, no, I don't like to formulate opinions without enough data.
It feels like there's something going on. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a transformation, and it's crazy. That's what's going on. Anybody else with regards to the report? Because we've got about 15 minutes left, and
You know, I was just remembering the meeting that Glenn and I had with, and he was talking about how Canada should be allowing Chinese EVs into Canada, and was saying that we should be pushing to get Chinese companies building EVs in Canada. And so now it's happening. And
I think it's quite interesting because I believe that specifically the EV mentioned by Carney is the same EV mentioned in Bill McKibben's book as something that they should be getting, or at least I guess Bill McKibben's is from the States, so but yeah, it was fabulous.
I have a family member who is an engineer in General Motors in the 1980s and early 1990s. Extremely frustrating to try to increase the efficiency of vehicles within that organization. He basically quit because they wouldn't let him increase efficiencies of the vehicles within the organization. And they thought, like, he was actually like, the engineers would laugh at him, and it became a toxic atmosphere for actually wanting to do that. That's why he quit, not because they were being bozos, is because it became toxic to even talk about it. So they're paying. Yeah. Anyways, that's a little bit of sidetrack, but that's all the underlying stuff that just goes on that we don't even know about.
I'd like to chime in that one thing that came out loud and clear from the report that you just went through was the tremendous amount of work done by the National Office and by you, Kathy. So thanks from all of us for all that work. It through the whole report, so much less would have been accomplished had it not been for you and the National, Mary Blake and Mark. So really appreciated.
Yeah, Mary Blake and Mark have been a total anchor, and all your reports just keep us going. They get us excited. Like, it's yeah, thank you.